stopped there at the when I was getting front turbine. They all riled up.
Okay, Ron, thank you.
I get to go to school.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
It's going.
If I give them to them, they'll be in your pocket. You know,
You know, sometimes you think you push the button and change. So I wanted to check them. But I
What's up, like I said, that Moose Pavilion, water than that.
For a season meet starts, here we go.
They said it was set it all north. Going up to Jefferson County. Yeah, a little up there. He's always, yeah, he does.
Oh, he just flew up again.
They were having apparently, when the fire department was going over and rescuing something, they were going up to discuss. They were just flip when the helicopter
We only saw one person.
whatever thing they had. Must have doing rescue, I don't know where. Somehow the chamber fire hall. They were discussing.
wait right out before. Wait right
Please
out.
stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is a workshop that we're working on the wind law. We had one a couple weeks ago. See if we can. We had some issues that we were concerned with last time. I met with Mr. Getman previously. A lot of the issues he thought should be left into the law. So I guess you know, we can kind of look down through things and see where we come out. You guys got that sheet that you made up.
Well, do we need to go to?
It's not necessarily.
Mr. Bono, before you go any further, if we're going to have the air on so you guys can be cool, we would appreciate it if you would speak up, because we're having to listen over the fan, and it's going to be a particular problem for people with their backs to us. We can hear you. We can hear you just fine.
Go ahead and shut the air off.
Shut it off? Okay.
Or turn it down some.
Shut it off.
The fan's running on low right now, so.
Yeah, unplug it, whatever. At least it's cool in here to start out.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, as we look down this list, the item on page 8, Mr. Gatton said is legal. The item on page 9 is legal. Let's see, page 10 is legal. Page 16 is legal. Page 18, pilot. That would not be part of the local law. That's a separate document. You want to expand on that a little bit, Bill?
Well, this indicates you've got to have a fully executed pilot agreement before you get a permit. The pilot is independent. Some of the provisions, let's say, such as the road bonding, some of these things are going to be part of the pilot, and some are covered by, you know, the permit itself. But you're not going to negotiate a pilot before you go through the process of the application and the whole permit process. There's no need to. You're going to either end up with a pilot, or you're going to end up with it, you know, once the application, then end up with it on the roll. You know, unless there's a great change in how the state looks at the valuation of those things, you're going to end up, you know, with a pilot.
And that's not part of it.
It really, there's really no need, it certainly is not something that you're going to have finalized and executed before you even know whether or not there's going to be a permit granted for, you know, regardless of the size of the wind farm, you know, when the permit application goes in, it may get pared back, you know, your pilot may deal with, you know, things that come up during the permit process, but you can't require a fully executed pilot, you know, beforehand.
So we should strike.
I think it just, it's strictly from the need to be there for an application. They need a pilot agreement, so they're not gonna have, you know, before they actually go into operations, they're not gonna be taxed at, you know, full value assessment. But that's, you know, those are the negotiations that go on. You know, right now, you know, one of the large issues with regard to the pilots are whether or not the county's gonna be a part. You know, essentially, you've gotta bring, the pilot requires the county and the school, you know, to negotiate those issues too, and they're not part of the permit application. So it's sort of, they're separate issues, it's sort of putting the cart before the horse.
Okay. All right. I guess we, you know, Jim, you had some concern about the districts.
Yeah, if I can get it out of me here, I got kind of a summer cold or some type of infection, I don't know. I wasn't really happy with coming up with 3 different districts, and I can kind of see 2 areas of, no, we kind of looked at that last time, and we kind of said we're going to cut it into 3 districts, and I don't know, I'm just not, I don't like that, and I'd like to see it cut down just to 2 districts, whatever these are going to be named, whether it be 1 or 2 or A or B or whatever, and designate that as areas of windmill interest or whatever correct wording we want to come up with. And anybody and anything between Coal Hill or Stone would be wind exempt. So in other words, this area right through here all the way down, right up to the other one would be wind free or wind exempt, and no windmills to be built in this particular area. That would go along with the exception of a personal, somebody put in an application to have a personal windmill that follows the rules of the law, but I'd like to see this whole area in here wind exempt and wind free.
Well, it would simplify what we've been trying to do with the setbacks to, you know, 6.5 or 7 or whatever and all that type of thing. If we just say this area is not favorable because of the density of population, we just didn't allow windmills at all.
I think when you really look at the maps and you see the residents and between population density and our commercial growth, I think that but we should keep this area, this entire area between the 2 wind-free. And
save a lot of the struggling and wording.
Well,
that's my we're feeling on it.
When I looked at the map and did measurements, really, even if it was 6.5 times, there really wouldn't have been any windmills, because there wasn't a large enough distance between houses. No property owners had enough of an area that it would work. So basically, what we said last time was that 6.5.
Well, we were talking waivers and different things, so there were some areas that had possibilities of a windmill within this area. I'd just like to see this entire area wind-free, or, yeah, wind, it's blowing up there, I guess it can't be wind-free.
Commercial
It's,
windmill.
Yeah, I'd like to see windmill exempt, there, whatever words that we come up with as a group, that this area is exempt from any windmill development or, what do you want to say to that?
Commercial wind power development.
Well, I just say windmill development, and due to the fact of population density and commercial growth. And just keep this, whether we say this is an exempt area or what, I would just like to see this whole area through here exempt. So there's no, from whatever the boundaries we, area boundary or district boundaries we set at the two where we already have windmills, and keep this whole area in here exempt. That's my proposal.
What do you think, Rick?
I like that concept. There's gotta be a place for the windmills, and the windmills don't belong in a lot of people's backyards. They don't belong in the highly populated residential area. They don't belong down here.
Well, I agree. That's why I'm proposing this, that this whole section in here would be.
Mr. Jetman, does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's, however you decide your districts, I think rather than making the center or, you know, that area exempt, it's simply you're setting up your districts and only allowing, you know, commercial windmills in those districts.
Yeah, however it should be worded,
Yeah.
but anyway, the concept of, what do you think, Brad?
Well, it's compromise that I thought all along, you know, there's some landowners that may get left out in the woods, and there's a few homeowners that aren't gonna be happy, but in the big picture, it seems to work for me. You know, we've cut them way down, we haven't cut them out. I don't see what else we can do.
It seems like it's the same thing we were doing the last meeting, only just kind of simplifying it rather than having to figure all these.
Yeah.
So, I'd be in favor of that.
I'd be okay with it. I didn't see that there were gonna be able to be any windmills anyway, so technically, you know, this is just better wording probably.
Now, I still, if we're set with that, I still, remember the last time, talked about when we set up the district. Wonder, just on the Portland Road where it's over there, if we should, because of the density in there, if we should loop that up around. It probably doesn't make a big difference. But
You might lose a couple of windmills. Where are you talking?
Stone Road,
Stone.
Instead of,
yeah.
Oh, and then over.
yeah, pick this back up.
Correct.
Right, this whole area coming down through here, all the way to our borders, whether it be Hamilton or Augusta or Eaton or Stockbridge. This whole strip would be exempt. That's.
Yeah, so you weren't here before, Roger, but we, this is the 911 addresses. And so we were kind of looking at density of addresses. Right in the center.
And most of this is low lying anyway, except for up in here. couldn't hear you, just no.
This is
But-
where that small project was proposed. up
Yeah,
there.
but because of the airport, they really couldn't have any, I think, beyond here. It was only here that there's a hill that would have been possible.
I talked to Skip Kemp here a month ago, and he says he flies in there once in a while, yeah. So,
But, you know, if we had talked about 6.5, you know, I took a ruler and measured, and because of these houses here, there was really no place that was going to be 6.5 from the residences. So, there really weren't gonna be able to be any there anyway. And that was really the only other hill in the town that was a possibility.
yeah, up where Azure is.
Those areas anyways, are gonna have to be probably GPS, whether, we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna use as a boundary and actually determine, by miles, X miles in such and such a direction, to such a road in such a direction. You know, you're gonna have to actually put this down, and where the actual area or district's gonna be, right? I mean, you can't,
Well, Bill, would you do like a description, like on a deed description, or how would you do that?
Well, if you're going to do that, you're gonna have a considerable expense, you know, on the survey end, you know, to be able to get those coordinates, as opposed to using the center line of the roads or, you know, the edge of the, you know, the existing roads, which is pretty much, I think, the way you've got it.
Yeah, I think the road is the fairest way to do it.
Or, you know, as we mentioned the other day, that, you know, if you wanted to hold it back from the road, you could also, you know, for instance, when you're using borderline and center road, you could say, okay, you know, 500 feet or 1,000 feet east of the center line of that road. You know, it's not hard to follow, and certainly, you know, if they went to, you know, toward placement of anything, they don't have any problem following that. But to actually get a survey description of those districts, I think you're talking about more money than you're gonna wanna spend. I mean, you're talking a lot of distance. I hate to guess what it would cost, but I'm thinking, you know, in the $30,000 to $50,000 range.
Can you do it with a GPS?
No, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna have a surveyor do it, you know, with, you know, coordinates. Otherwise, it's a lot more accurate simply to use the center line of the existing road.
You can do it off GPS.
And so we could just have a description.
would you have to measure that, like, from the
Well,
Oneida County line, Route 20,
well,
is X amount of miles down to Center Road?
well, you're simply going from the, you know, from the town line to the center line of, you know, Center Road, to its intersection with, you know, Center Road, and following down Center Road. I don't know if that's up, you know, going up Stone Road, easterly on Stone Road, and then southerly on Corn Road. Using the center lines of the roads, you would have certainly a description that, you know, would be solid enough so that you knew what, you know, where it was. You would also have, it would be a description that everyone could easily read, as opposed to if you just put in a distance and declination description, nobody else is gonna understand it.
Right.
Until you're showing them that. No, the center lines of the existing roads would be, you know, the other route would be to use tax parcel numbers, but some of those change as parcels get split. And if you're gonna follow the roads as opposed to cutting through, you know, the middle, for instance, you know, sections, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be definite enough, you know, using the existing roads.
Sounds like the way to go. Keep it basic and save money.